guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to go ahead and talk about Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, and this is an adult thriller. And before I go ahead and jump into the review, I wanted to just say that I loved everything about this story. I ended up rating this a 5 out of 5 stars. I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed this. It was something that I just could not put it down. When I was not reading it, I was thinking about it. I loved everything about this. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and jump into the review. So again, this is an adult thriller, and this tells the story of two fathers. So we have a black father by the name of Ike, and we have a white father by the name of Buddy Lee. And the story starts off with them both tragically losing their sons in a horrific murder. And both of their sons were gay, and their sons were actually married to each other. And both of the fathers actually had a really hard time accepting that their sons were gay. And if I remember correctly, both of the fathers had never really met before. I believe they knew about each other, but they hadn't actually met. And the first time that they are meeting is at the funeral in the beginning of the story. And at the beginning of the story, both of the fathers and the families have obviously decided that they wanted to let the police do their job and try to investigate the murder of their sons. But the police were having a really hard time trying to get anybody to talk to them. And everybody they were questioning, nobody wanted to really cooperate and provide any answers into exactly what happened in regards to the murder. So the case went cold. And one day, Buddy Lee, the white father, decided to reach out to Ike and ask him if he would be willing to work with him so that they could try to figure out what happened to their sons. Ike eventually agrees, and they go off around their city asking questions, roughing people up, and trying to get the answers in regards to what happened to their sons. Now, that doesn't sound bad, but the only problem with that is both of these fathers are actually ex-cons, and they've both spent time in jail, hard time in jail, for previous murders, drug deals, the works. And not only are they out there roughing people up, other people are coming up murdered, and they actually have an encounter with this biker gang who is also looking for this woman who is connected to the murder of their sons. So the story takes off from there. It's a lot of twists and turns. This story is extremely fast-paced. There's a lot going on, and we're getting the story kind of told from Ike and Buddy Lee's perspectives, and we're also getting the story told from one of the biker gang's perspectives. So I believe it's like 3 perspectives total that we're getting this story told from. And like I said, it is just a lot going on, and it's extremely fast paced, and it's just a lot. And there are a lot of topics that are being brought up in this story. So like I mentioned before, both of the fathers had a really hard time with accepting the fact that their sons were gay. So not only are we dealing with a lot of grief between the two fathers, we are dealing with the fact that they're both having a hard time coping with the fact that they feel like they lost a lot of time with their sons because they feel like they spent so much of their time being angry with their sons for them being gay, and now that they're dead, they won't ever get that time back. So we kind of, when we are in those perspectives with the fathers, we're kind of getting just little flashbacks here and there about how they reacted when they found out that their sons were gay, and how they're trying to deal with those feelings. And it's kind of sad, and you kind of feel for these fathers because now you really get that regret that they feel now that they know that they will never get that time back. And so, you know, we're seeing that. And then we are seeing racism brought up a lot in this story because, like I said, Ike is black. We have Buddy Lee that's white. And we have Buddy Lee that, you know, grew up on a trailer park, and he was never really around a lot of black people. So a lot of the comments that he makes are kind of ignorant, and he doesn't really realize the things that he says because he hasn't grown up not just around black people in general, but people of color in general. So a lot of the things he says, he doesn't realize how they come across. So there's a lot of that's brought up. And you know, there's a lot of homophobia. There's homophobic slurs that are used throughout the story. There's a lot of graphic violence. There's a lot of murder. There's some torture that's in this story. So I would just be mindful of any of that, if any of that is triggering for you. But there's a lot of that. Now, all of that is serious, but there is a few lighthearted moments in this story between Buddy Lee and Ike because they are so different from each other. Like I said, they are both ex-cons, but they did spend both of their times in like two totally different types of prisons. I want to say that Ike is the one that spent his time in a prison, I want to say that's a little more worse than the one that Buddy Lee spent his time in. And Buddy Lee is someone that grew up in a trailer park, and then Ike is someone that spent his time in a little better neighborhood than, you know, Buddy Lee did. And so their lives are a little bit different. And, you know, Ike is this big, buff, black dude that's 300 pounds, and then Buddy Lee is this tall, lanky, skinny white guy. And so one, they look odd together, you know, standing next to each other, like this odd couple. And then the banter between them two is just hilarious because in the beginning of the story, they didn't necessarily argue, but they didn't really get along because they didn't know each other. And they weren't really okay with their sons being married to each other. Like, they both didn't accept the fact that their sons were gay, so they definitely didn't accept the fact that their sons were married. So they didn't necessarily get along, but they only came together because they wanted to find out who murdered their sons. So them just forming this relationship together and this friendship together, it was great to see that throughout the story. So I was here for that, and just, you know, watching their friendship blossom over the course of the story was good. And it was kind of funny just to hear their conversations. And but besides that, like I said, the story was fast-paced. It was hard to put down because something was always happening. There was never a dull moment at all through this story. And this was one of those stories. One, I got it from Book of the Month, if you couldn't tell. And I never heard anything about this story. I didn't know, because this was my July pick for Book of the Month. And I didn't know what I was going to pick. And I just randomly chose this one. I was kind of reading through the synopsis, and I was like, I guess this one sounds the best. And I'm really happy that I chose this one. And I kind of miss just randomly choosing books because I kind of feel like being on BookTube, I pick books based off of other people's opinions. And this is the first time in a long time that I've picked a book based off of absolutely nothing. And I ended up walking away loving something that I knew absolutely nothing about. And it feels good to know nothing about this one. And I loved it. I would highly, highly recommend this one. Again, just a few trigger warnings for homophobic slurs and really graphic violence and some torture in here. But besides that, if none of that is triggering for you, I would definitely highly recommend this. 5 out of 5 stars. Well, that is all that I have for you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.